Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Today we are talking about airlines and connections and stuff. For those people who use airlines and guns and all different attachments quite often, you'll often find even the good connections, they tend to leak. And they leak, after a few months. Just depends how you use them. And it's really annoying to hear this all the time. And the connections can be quite expensive, especially if you have to keep replacing them on all your air tools every few months. It does get very expensive. We have a few different type of connections here, and I want to talk about a couple of new connections I found, and to see if we can kind of stop this, and a couple of ways that they are now saying how to connect your airlines and save your air connections and blah 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 blah. These are the ones I use, are the quick release. They just slop in like that, very simple. These are the PLC ones. They're good connections, quick release, clip in. But what happens is this part can get worn, and it's mainly this though. It's mainly this fella that starts leaking. Now what I have also seen, and I've seen it on, seems to be in America quite a lot, I've never seen it here, and I asked the guy that does all my connections, and he doesn't really sell them here, but he got them in for me. And I've seen them on Erico's videos and people like that, and they look really good. They're these swivel connections. They're essentially the same as these, but they swivel, and as you can see they're a lot shorter, and I'm going to go into that in a second, how shorter and how that might be handy for lots of people. So this one is a Sealy connection, and this is a new connection that the guy was selling as well. Again, this is a Sealy connection. Now the beauty with this connection is it's on a ball, so you can see that it moves, and I'll tell you what the idea behind this is. He sold that to a tyre place that just does tyres, and he sold it a good few months ago, and he hasn't had any comebacks on them yet, so it's looking like they could actually work. Essentially what you have is, if you're using an air tool, this is just an air gun. This is the new Facom one, which is the NS1600F, a little animal of a gun, 850, 860 foot-pounds of torque, and it's tiny. So, but essentially what you normally do is you would screw this in. This is connected to your airline, you clip that in, and that's your connection done. But as you rattle, now this one moves, but the normal connections don't move. As you rattle, all the pressure and all the rattle goes through the connections. And even if you don't unclip them all the time, they just go through the connections and they wear them out. So what they're saying to do now is put a whip on it. Now these are called different things, whip, tails, all sorts. So you put a slightly different connection on the back. Just one of them connections. Then you put this whip on it. Now this is still airline, but it's really flexible. And then you essentially put your airline connections to it. But the problem with this, as you can see, you've got this long flexible line, and it can get in the way. Now apparently it does work. All the vibrations go through this, and when it comes to this end there's hardly any vibrations, and it saves your connections, which is great. But as you can see, you've got this big bloody pipe in the way, and if you need to get into tight areas, this pipe, you might have to start bending it out the way like this and getting in, and this pipe's going to get in the way, and most of it get caught and ripped and all sorts, and could be bloody annoying. So one way around that is these new, well I say they're new, they're not new, but they're certainly new to me, and the guy doesn't really sell them. He said he sold them a few years ago, but no one really asked for them over here. This goes in, and as you can see, if I was to line up this one next to it, you can see how much longer this one is. So not only that, this is shorter, so if you need to get into awkward places, your airline's going to be going off at an angle. So as you can see, if that was your airline, rather than your airline sticking out here like that, your airline can come out at an angle, and already you can see the difference. I can get that into tight places, and my airline is actually out of the way. Now this still has the problem of essentially rattling. Now I think with maybe the way this actually moves like this, you might get some of the rattle out of it. I'm not sure, I haven't really used these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this connection with my new airline connection, which moves. So I'm going to use that. and then essentially, well, just imagine this is on the end of this, so then this goes into my airline like that, and then I have my airline, and this can be moved all the way out the way, but it's half the distance of the actual airline connection. So in other words, I can get into a lot tighter spaces. So it's something to look at if you are looking at different airlines. And I'll just give you, now these are the Sealy ones, so you have the Sealy numbers, but I'm sure you can get all different types. So there's the top corner, that's ACX90 is the swivel adapter, and then this is the 90, which is AS902, move my finger, that's that one. So I'm going to test these over the next few months just to see if they are good, bad or indifferent. But yeah, as you can see, they can really, hopefully, save your connections. And what we're going to talk about next is our airlines if you want to get more power from your airlines. So what most people don't know is, and I only found this out by accident a few years ago when I dropped it and it broke, you can actually undo these connections. Now these have got circlips on, so you can actually see they're essentially the same. I'm going to open up this connection and it's more or less the same, if I don't drop it. It's the same what's in here, it's just a slightly different way of opening it, but you'll get the idea. Now I have found, because I have opened all these that I've got, the more expensive connections, the PLC ones, you don't really have to do what I'm going to show you. Some of the cheaper connections you can do, and it's amazing how much more power you can get out your airline without even doing anything, without getting bigger tools, just out of your actual airline. And because the weak point or the snag is in your connections. So let's get this open and I'll show you how to actually do that. Sorted! Now again, don't know why my stupid microphone is going down. Anyway, what you need to do is the top of the connection where you actually slot it in to your airline is you can grab that in the vise. The bit I have in my hand, get a spanner and actually undo it. Now be careful because there is a spring there, as you can see, and inside here is 3 little balls. You don't need to undo this part, but just be aware that them little balls are there, because if it does fall out, all the balls will actually fall out, and then your airline won't clip in together essentially, because it's the little balls that retain the other clip. So just make sure you've got it all back and put it down and leave that to one side. What you're looking for, I'm just taking out the little rubber seal that normally comes out with the top part. It just got stuck in here, just so you can see what it'll look like. And my balls are escaping. Get me balls. So this is what you need. You have the top part of the connection that screws into your airline, and then you can see we've got a metal connection with a little spring on it, and that's what you need to look at. This is where the air essentially gets choked up. That little hole I'm about to show you is actually where the air comes in from your compressor into your gun or whatever you happen to be using. And what happens on the slightly cheaper ones, the hole tends to be quite small. And not only that, it's actually very rough. So all the air gets bounced around, and the edges are very rough, and the edges are lifted up. So what that means is the air bounces around before it actually gets into the hole. So what you need to do is you can slightly elongate the hole. As you can see, this one is already elongated. And believe me, it makes a huge difference. So slightly elongate the hole, but not only that, just get a file and just shave off the burr at the end of it, because that will allow the air to follow in more. Essentially like porting an engine. That's what porting an engine does. It just allows the airflow to go in smoothly without bouncing around everywhere. And like I said, it makes a huge difference. Just doing that If you've got a small hole, you make it bigger. Just by doing that, you will find that your air tools are so much more powerful without replacing any of them. And it's the same with the 90 swivel I showed you. The only thing is there's a little circlip on the end, and you just take the circlip off and you do essentially exactly the same thing. The camera won't really show it, but down there you can, well you can't, but yeah, with your eyes you can see the holes. You just take the circlip off and just do the same with that. And again, the power you would get, you won't believe. So look, I hope that helps really. You will be surprised if you do it, just how much power you get out of it. Don't forget, please like, share and subscribe, all the usual. All the links down below to our Facebook, to our Instagram, to our website, our forum, GoFundMe project. Any questions down below, but most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. We'll see you for the next one.